Hello, my name's Chris Maxim, and I'd like to begin by saying what a privilege it is to have been asked by Paraclete to talk a little bit about myself and about my music today. I was born in North Wales. I've lived in England and in Wales at various times in my life, but for nearly 20 years now I've lived in London, where I've worked as a teacher. I've been a head teacher of a large secondary school, and I'm an organist and a conductor, but mainly a composer. And nowadays I'm working freelance as a musician and as an education consultant as well, which I'm pleased to say gives me more time for composition, my absolute first love. My background is I suppose, a very normal one in music, as in an unprivileged one, in that I went to ordinary schools as a boy. I went and sang in ordinary churches. I didn't sing in a cathedral choir or anything like that. But I was fortunate, and I was fortunate because the primary school I went to had a really good musical tradition. The lady that I had known as Auntie Pam, she was a family friend, was the deputy head teacher and in charge of music at my primary school, and she still is a wonderful woman. She's nearly 90 years old now, and she did wonders with us as children, with a choir and a school orchestra of little children, but leading hymns in assembly, playing in concerts. We did beautiful, wonderful music making. And also I was lucky enough that our local church, it wasn't even the main church in the town, but my local church had a really good choral tradition and a fantastic organ too. That was just how it was. I was very, very fortunate to have these high quality formative experiences. I had begun improvising on my grandmother's piano when I was tiny. It used to drive my poor grandfather absolutely crazy. And from there I just knew I wanted to get involved with music. And not long after I had started piano lessons, I started writing compositions down, notating compositions. And I'm still doing it. Sometimes I write music just because I want to write that piece. Sometimes I write music for a particular event, such as a concert or a church service, or indeed one of my own organ recitals. And sometimes I am commissioned to write pieces, and all of these kind of pieces I will mention briefly today because they're all published by Paraclete. So just a quick overview then of what Paraclete already publish from my music. There are choral pieces available and there are organ pieces available. Some of the choral pieces are Christmas pieces. For example, I Sing of a Maiden, Let Christians All with Joyful Mirth, and Hark, Hark, Glad Tidings Charm Our Ears. Let Christians All I composed back in 1999, just because I felt like it before Christmas, but it's proved a very popular piece, full of joy and brightness, and has been performed many times. It's well within the capabilities of a competent, but kind of like average, I suppose whatever average means, but a kind of an average church choir. I Sing of a Maiden and Hark Hark were both composed for the church where I have been organist now for over 17 years. I play at a church called St Matthew's, Bethnal Green. It's in the East End of London, it's a poor area, and it's a very mixed area and a very multicultural area. The church couldn't sustain a regular church, a regular choir of a good standard, so we just get one together each Christmas. I only took the job on temporarily. I've loved the place so much I've stayed. It's great. I can improvise, I can embellish the liturgy with my organ playing, and I really enjoy that. And of course we're still under lockdown here at the time of recording this video, hence the length of my hair, and we're not able to have public worship yet, and it's something that we're all desperate to get back to when the time is right. So these pieces for St Matthew's, one is an unaccompanied, I Sing of a Maiden is unaccompanied, and Hark Hark is accompanied, but they are both very much within the bounds of local church choirs should be able to sing them. A recent review in a British magazine of Hark Hark commented that it actually sounds much harder than it really is. It sounds very impressive, but it's quite an easy piece to perform. Love Is, this is a setting from 1 Corinthians 13, and it's a piece that I was commissioned to write for a wedding, unaccompanied, very straightforward, very gentle. Composed for a wedding, suitable for weddings, but suitable for all sorts of other services and concert use as well. Stars of the Morning is an example of a rather harder piece that I have written. It was first performed in St Paul's Cathedral, London, and is quite a challenge. It requires a competent organist, it requires a choir with a really strong sense of rhythm, but it is tonal, it is, I think, accessible, and I hope enjoyable. That's certainly the feedback I've got. I think all of these pieces are available to hear on YouTube, so you can get a flavour of how they all go. So Paraclete also published my organ music, and as I've already indicated, I'm an organist myself. I write principally for myself to play pieces, and I'm really touched when other people want to listen to them and want to play them also. The Elegy is probably the easiest of the pieces that Paraclete publish of mine so far. It's a very intense piece, ideal for a kind of reflective moment in a recital, but also for funerals, memorial services, and any liturgy that requires a piece of quiet but intense music. My Jubilate is a much more extrovert and jolly piece. It's great fun to play, and it seems to work really well not only as a recital piece but as a voluntary, a recessional at the end of a service. If you're an organist, you may well be familiar with Ralph Vaughan Williams's famous 3 preludes founded on Welsh hymn tunes. Well, to an extent, they were the model for my 3 pieces founded on Welsh hymn tunes. These are great in recitals. You can play them individually, you can play them as a set of 3. You can hear me play them on YouTube with a member of my choir. This is an amateur chamber choir that I conduct. He reads the texts beforehand so people know kind of what the music's about. The first is a setting of Aberystwyth, Jesu, lover of my soul, let me to thy bosom fly. It's a really kind of quite dark piece. The central one, which is based on Blaenwern, Love Divine or Love's Excelling, is a much more gentle and lilting organ piece. Works well during communion, works really well during weddings, and also at other times too. And finally, Trevinan, which sets words, can you count the stars that brightly twinkle in the moonlight sky, isn't actually that well known, unless you were a child in the late 20th century being brought up in Wales like I was. It appeared in many hymn books in the 1950s, 60s and 70s, and that's how I got to know it. And because of these words about the stars twinkling in the sky, you will hear the organ part twinkling away in this little toccatina, and I often play it using the cymbal stern stop with the bells adding to that twinkle. If you know Düruflé's Prelude and Fugue on the Name of Alan, you will understand something of my Prelude and Fugue on the Name of Düruflé. This is a quite demanding concert piece. I've played it after services. I played it not so long ago, it was about last November in fact, at a big service at Southwark Cathedral in London. It's really rhythmic, full of rhythmic drive, and whereas in Düruflé's homage to Alan, you eventually arrive at that wonderful tune from Alan's litanies towards the end of the prelude. Towards the end of my prelude, the piece that we kind of discover, the piece that is eventually revealed, is the plain song Ubi Caritas et Amor, which I'm sure many of you will know in Düruflé's wonderful, wonderful setting. So once again, perfect for concert use, also very much suitable after services, but a fairly challenging piece. And finally, much kind of like easier in the main, are my 11 chorale preludes. If you know Brahms's set of 11, you'll realise why I've put together 11. There are some similarities with some of Brahms's settings, but certainly this is no copy. This is very much my own approach to the genre of the chorale prelude. The moods vary, the liturgical seasons vary, and you might spot the key relationships that exist to create an overarching structure. You can play these pieces in different services. Their different moods are ideal for different times of the liturgical year. You can play groups of them in concerts, or you could play the whole lot, as I have done in concert. I was so excited when Paraclete said that they would publish these. I mean, I'm always excited, I'm always glad when my music's published by Paraclete, but these are very personal pieces. In fact, the last two are dedicated to friends of mine who died not so long ago, and to have such personal music published and accessible to a wide range of players and audiences is a real delight. So I do hope I've given you a flavour of what's already available. I hope it's piqued your interest. Many of the pieces you can hear performed on YouTube. I've got other pieces coming out in due course. They include the Christmas pieces All and Some and Hurry to Bethlehem. They should be coming out in the next few months. A little communion anthem, Jesus to Your Table Led, and two other organ pieces, my exuberant Easter Alleluias and my 5-movement suite for organ, which includes a really kind of in the middle, a kind of like a sort of a devilish fugue. It's devilishly difficult to play actually, and some more gentle movements on either side of it, and this really extrovert toccata sortie as the finale to the suite. I had the privilege of playing that in Winchester Cathedral a few years ago. So there's a lot of variety, and because I write so much for amateur choirs, whether it's my own church choir each Christmas, whether it's my amateur chamber choir, the Giltspur Singers, or for the people who commission me to write music, I really do hope you'll find that it's kind of like, it's singable. It's catchy at times, but also for me the craft of composition is important, and you'll find imitative counterpoint, and I hope you'll find like good word setting and good voice leading that all help that. And as an organist, similarly, I hope you'll find the writing is good for organ. It works, you know, it's playable. It may not always be really easy, and there'll be challenges there, but it does fit under the hands and feet, and it does sound right on the organ because of my experience. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today.